Okay, back with earnings. Thermax reported numbers, top line growth of 44%, profit up 67%, EBITDA up 24%, which means EBITDA margin was 8.2% versus 9.6% last time around. Given the fact that raw material cost did manage to impact the EBITDA of the company, we are joined by MS Unnikrishnan of Thermax to give us a sense of what happened with this quarter and what's going to happen ahead. Mr. Unnikrishnan, thank you so much. Good morning. Thanks for speaking to us. Firstly, a word on the margins. Margins looked slightly lower in terms of the absolute, in terms of percentage, given the fact that raw material cost did manage to move up this time around. What's the outlook going ahead? Will raw material cost continue to be an impact for you?
Darshan, in the current quarter and in the overall year, we had an impact on account of some projects, cost overruns and cost pressures on some of the larger projects. And of course, one of our subsidiaries in the Denmark, Europe, not doing too well. Otherwise, it could have been a little better. So I'm not expecting a major margin pressure from the current levels for the coming year, though the intention to improve that margin from the current level upper in the coming year, it will be challenging, but we are attempting to do that way.
What went wrong with the European subsidiary? I believe you're referring to Danstoker, which didn't do well. What's happening as far as the subsidiary's business is concerned, and by when can we see a turnaround?
We have got two specific operations over there under Danstoker. One is a standard product business of the company, which is doing quite okay even now. However, when we attempted doing projects under Boiler Works, which is another acquisition done by Danstoker themselves, we have had some difficulties in executing the projects, but they're all behind us now. But one thing is that we had stopped taking projects in Europe under the Boiler Works, and we are focusing only on services and standard products. That itself will bring in the turnaround. So I'm expecting the current year, Danstoker will certainly be reporting a profit in the coming year, the year that is going by. But last year we had the difficulties of the project orders that we had taken, and there were some cost overruns in those.
What about the order inflow, because the backlog as well as order inflow is somewhat saw a decline over last year, both on a full year basis as well as quarter basis. What's the view ahead? Are you having any kind of large orders that will come in this time around, and what's your sense?
See, the first 7 months of the last year, there had been an upswing in order intake, with a very steady order inflow happening both from the domestic market as well as from the international market. But the past maybe 4 or 5 months, we had been seeing a decline predominantly in the domestic market, and we have not been able to accelerate the order booking for the larger projects business of the company. The reason for that being not that we lost any orders. There had been an overall lull in the market in projects, specifically in the steel, oil and gas, power sectors, had not had any movement that's worth mentioning. So which had had an impact on the order intake. However, the standard products even in the domestic market has done quite okay even in the last 4 or 5 months, but they were unable to lift up the entire order booking because of the drop in project level. I also need to inform that the international sector of the company in the last year, we were bereft of a very large order. Like year prior to this, we had 1,000 crore single order from African continent, whereas in the current year, without that also, if I had to keep that project aside, overall product order intake from the global markets had been also better than the previous year. So if I had to take the entire 12 months of order intake, the domestic order intake had remained almost flat at the same level as previous year, and the international has come down by almost 700 crore because there was no project order of the size that we've had in the year prior to that. Now going forward, I'm not expecting, though a very strong mandate and the continuity of the government going to happen should ensure that Indian market picks up, but it can't happen overnight. So I would expect the order intake for the domestic market to be picking up in the second half of the current year. We will have a tough first quarter, just an improved second quarter, and third and fourth we should be seeing better numbers in order intake from the domestic market. Internationally too, Darshan, we are seeing in the markets that we are currently operating. Indonesia also underwent an election year, and very happy that there is a continuum going to be happening, and Malaysia is stable. So overall Southeast Asia, we'll see an improvement in the order intake also. So put together, should be aiming for something better than the previous year in terms of order intake in the current year that is ongoing.
Okay, what's the view on gross margins going ahead? That has come off this quarter. That seems to be a little bit of concern as per some of the analyst notes I read.
That's a quarterly affair only. I don't think one need to be unduly worried about. Gross margins at the company level overall will only improve in the coming year. Because in the current year there had been some challenging orders under execution, and next year a spillover of part of that will happen, but not the majority. The majority is already over in the current year. So you should see on a yearly basis, next year you should be able to report better numbers in terms of profitability and gross margins. When I say better is better than the current year. That's what I mean.
Okay, and my final question, sir, while the energy business has been doing well, it saw good growth as far as the fourth quarter was there. Environmental business somehow remains subdued. No doubt it got better margins this time, but the revenue number didn't match up. What's the sense that you're getting in for this business, sir?
Environment business had a fairly decent growth for the current year. Top line, full year, quarter I'm not looking at because we are at the almost year end. It is improved on both top line and bottom line. Yeah, the environment business of the company has grown almost by an 18-19% in the current year, and the profits have gone up by almost 200 basis points, and from a 4.2 to 6.7 is a kind of improvement in the profitability, both in the air pollution control as well as in the water and wastewater business. We had an improvement in profitability. So, environment, it had been a better year. In the last quarter alone, in the fourth quarter, you may not have seen a major intake of orders beyond what we expected. And let me confirm to you that there are no major order losses. Across the country, there weren't too many projects getting concluded in the last quarter, so that could have impacted the order intake. But the revenues are better off in the entire year as well as in the fourth quarter also.
Okay, Mr. Unnikrishnan, we leave it at that. All the best for the quarters going ahead, and thank you so much for speaking to Bloomberg Quint.
Thank you, Darshan.
Thank you.